This is Dan Bauer, and you are in the press row.
Welcome to the press row. From sports media to startups, retail to revolutionaries. The press row. Authentic conversations with game changers and visionaries. Now here's your host, Jonah Siegel.
Today's episode in the press row is pretty cool. I met today's guest, Dan Bauer, while in Tampa at a Shark Tank reunion. No, wait a minute. I wasn't on Shark Tank. Neither was Dan. But we had an awesome time together, and I thought it would be really interesting for you to hear what he does. This podcast started talking to exclusively members of the sports media world, and we changed and talked to people with interesting stories. Dan has a really interesting story about what he does today, but it's equally important about where he came from and how he got to what he's doing today. So I hope you can sit back, relax, and take in his story. I think you're going to find it really inspiring. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome back. Jonah here in Seattle. A atypical Friday afternoon. It's a balmy 50 degrees here in Seattle, which we never get this time of year. Today's guest is someone who I just met at one of the coolest sessions, offsites. I'm not even sure what you call it because it wasn't really a trade show. I guess it was a reunion, except my guest and I weren't reuniting. The other people were reuniting or uniting. We were just meeting. We were happy to be there. We were the parsley on the plate, if you will. He is this founder and CEO of Dan Bauer and Associates, but that's not going to mean a whole lot to a whole lot of people, but he has an awesome story to tell, which is why we're always here. So let's dig in and find out why we are talking to Dan Bauer today. Dan, how are you?
Doing great, Jonah. Thanks a lot. I'm excited to have the chat with you here.
And as the old storybook goes, where is Waldo today?
Waldo is in Nashville, Tennessee, with expectations of a nice 60-degree day and getting a 35-degree day with some visible snow still on the ground. So much for my good fortune in picking where I will be. But it'll warm up later this week, and my other option is Chicago, so I know I'm ahead of the game with that.
I was just going to say, and you can go drown yourself in some awesome music tonight, so you're definitely way ahead of the game.
Which is exactly what I'm doing. I'll be seeing one of my favorite bands tonight, a great old band called Little Feat.
If you'll be my Dixie Chicken, you can be my
Tennessee Lamb.
That's right. Love that song.
Yeah, so that's one of my favorites. And through to Nashville, there is something here every night musically that I enjoy.
When you go out in Nashville, you don't go down to the Strip. You go to where the locals go. Am I wrong?
Correct. So either the Ryman, which is the Mother Church, as they call it, which is a spectacular old venue, place called Third and Lindsley, which always has great stuff, a lot of really good tribute bands. That's kind of my jam because all the studio musicians down here honor the music so precisely and so passionately and authentically. So we hit that place quite often. Kimbrough's.
But those aren't down where all the action.
They're not on Broadway. No, the
right.
honky tonks, that's a little different. And if we have an out of town visitor, we'll go there the first night. But then when we're here, when my wife and I are here on our own, we'll find the more authentic stuff elsewhere.
Right. Like that was my experience, that it was really cool to see Broadway once.
Yeah.
But after that, it was all right, take me to where the locals go because that's the experience I want. I'm not here for a bachelorette party, with all due respect.
Exactly right. Exactly right. When we go down to Broadway, we'll do it on a weekday afternoon, and it's still crowded with a bunch of bachelorette parties and petty bars and all that good stuff. But no, this is Music City, and it's a well-earned reputation. We love it.
That's awesome. Love that you're going to see that band Little Feat tonight.
They're my heroes.
That's awesome.
Same vintage. I and they're still doing it, so it's pretty inspiring.
Amazing. Outdoor venue or it's like an
indoor venue. Indoor venue.
Okay. I guess
East Side Bowl. It's a bowling alley and bar.
And how big a venue is it?
Well, they'll probably get a few hundred in there. It's really a warm-up, sort of a poorly publicized, or let's say intentionally poorly publicized warm-up for a bigger show they're doing tomorrow in a place called the Caverns, which is about an hour from here. So they fly into Nashville. They'll, warm up as if they needed to, and they'll do that here. And I caught wind of that show and jumped on it. So I'll be in the front row.
And the Caverns is a bigger show, even though it's
a big,
an hour away.
It's almost like a Red Rocks atmosphere. It's truly underground caverns, about an hour out of Nashville, and
Wow.
It's a destination.
How big is that?
I haven't been to that one yet. I'm saving that one. So that's got to be maybe 1,000 folks.
Now, Dan, you just told us that these guys are your heroes. They're going there tomorrow, and then you just said that you're saving. Well, what are you saving for?
Saving the cab. Well, I get to see them close up. This is only
okay.
20 minutes away tonight.
Gotcha.
So I need, at this stage of the game, proximity and comfort of the venue is a consideration.
So for everybody who doesn't know, I was just at a Shark Tank alumni reunion, and Dan was there. And have you've been to the event before? Correct?
I have not been to that event before.
Okay, so we were both
we were friends of Shark Tank alums.
Correct. We were flies on the wall, and I'm assuming that you, like me, just got the invite to go to the next one as well.
Absolutely. Everything except the shark tattoo. I mean, I'm a member of the club now. I love.
We both just so everybody knows, we both now walk around and go, for these reasons, I'm out. But
very good.
So, to me, it was so inspiring because I had just left CES recently, which is like the hub of entrepreneurship, tech, all things. And this was not so disconnected from that, in a different vein.
As opposed to shiny objects, this is shiny people.
Right. But if you strip away a lot of the hype and entertainment of the show, what you really do have are people who had great ideas, put it together, struck a degree of gold, got on national television, and are in varying degrees of success and here to learn from each other and network and try to continue their business and build the empire. I don't think I'm speaking out of school that for the most part, most of the people there, not all, are still finding their way.
I would agree.
They're not the Ring doorbell founder. They're not the ones who hit gold and had massive exits. There are people there who are doing very well. Thank you very much. But for the most part, they are there really to learn and build a community and share to continue to grow their business. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, and I'd add a sidebar to that, which is some of them are there to have their next big idea and their next business. So, they're coming back to the well to renew and refresh and reconnect and do it again, whether it's Shark Tank or not. But, now they've passed through one portal and have the fame and gratification and pride that come from that, and they're hooked. So a lot of them are doing it again.
It is without question. There's a bunch of commonalities in speaking to a bunch of the Shark Tank contestants that you can tell the dopamine rush. Yeah. And there's certain commonalities that each of them tell about applying, getting approved, almost without I don't think I met anybody who had a normal, it's time to get on the show, you have time to prepare. It almost seems like invariably everybody gets rushed to go on. They go on. Some get a deal, some don't get a deal. Even those don't always get funded. Pretty incredible experience once that show hits the air. What happens after? How set up they are for success to deal with that airing, and then life after. That to me is a pretty common theme.
I would agree. They're agile people. They'll go with the flow. They're many of them. It's a long journey for them. They were connected with Shark Tank months prior. And then, as you say, they got a call and say, be here at this time, and you might be on the show and you might not be on the show.
And just so everybody knows, there was somebody there at the event who was on Shark Tank season 2. And I think there was somebody there at the event who was there not last season, but the season before. So
even more recent than that, there was a fellow there that had his show had not aired yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this was all vintages of Shark Tank, which was it was like a fraternity reunion from my standpoint,
right?
Or a college reunion where classes of the other 5-year increments meet in the same place. You've never met them before, but you all know the handshake.
We did.
No.
We were active flies on the wall.
Very graciously treated, I would say. There was no, who are you? Why are you here?
No,
not at all.
So you grew up in Chicago. Sorry, you grew up in Cleveland. You've spent
Correct.
some time in Hawaii. You've spent some time in Chicago and Cleveland. In a couple of words, just explain to everybody your background. That is really pretty interesting. And then we'll talk about what you're doing at the magazine and the camps, because that's really what I think is truly special and unique.
Yes. So my nomadic career is graced with a lot of good fortune and good opportunities that kept me moving to the next place. Cleveland's not that bad, but of my era, the chance to get out of there was taken. And so my first job opportunity was in the ad agency business, which I fell in love with. That's what I had dreamt about doing since I was 16, and got a job with a good agency in Pittsburgh. Spent a few years there. One night got a late night call from a mentor that said, I've got another job that you should look at. And he told me all about it with another agency. Sounded great. I said, is it in Pittsburgh? He goes, no. I said, all right. I said, it's not in California, is it? Because I've never, I've been there once and it's too far. He goes, no, not in California. Pretty soon he told me at the end of the call that it was in Hawaii. And I could not spell Hawaii at that point, but he was insistent enough. And he said, it's worth a visit. It's worth a roll of the dice. And so I did, and I fell in love with it. Just incredible.
Honolulu?
Honolulu, yeah. Flew out there for one night. I had a fraternity brother that lived there. He drove me around. I just said, I've got to do this. It smells sweet.
I'm really surprised that, having been in Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Honolulu is suddenly appealing. This is really shocking, Dan. This didn't happen to be in January or February, did it?
Actually, it was. that helped.
Okay, go on.
So, for a kid from the Midwest, it was, just mind blowing to be plunked down in the middle of the Pacific. But candidly, and I really mean it, the job had to be good, better than what I was doing, and it was. And so, my wonderful wife said, okay, let's do it for a couple of years. And
right. Again, shocking. Yeah, really, really shocking. She said, yeah, I might be willing to do this for a couple of years.
Pittsburgh, Honolulu, right? So we went out there and had in mind a couple of years, and lasted 13 years there. Had 2 little boys born there. And I went from the agency business. I was recruited by Bank of Hawaii to run their marketing. And so that's what I did for the other half of those 13 years. And then decided, it's too early to retire. I'm in my 30s. And this is, you can visit Disneyland, but you don't want to live in it. And so finally we realized, okay, what are we going to do? And so I thought, I really want to change the game. I don't want to just take another job in another place. It's time to sort of retool and reinvest. And so I applied to Harvard Business School.
How old were you at the time?
38.
Okay.
So another as monumental a decision and pivot point as going to Hawaii from Pittsburgh.
You were pivoting before pivoting was a thing.
Before it was a word. Yes, that's right. It was called crazy in those days. So it was a hard decision to make. Truly it was. But I got in and realized that, to move my whole family, reroute them from Hawaii, where everybody was comfortable and happy, to Boston in the winter, is when I went to interview. And
what year are we talking about?
1988.
Did anybody call you Thornton Mellon?
Say again.
Did anybody call you Thornton Mellon?
No, I don't know Thornton Mellon.
Thornton Mellon is the character that Rodney Dangerfield played in the movie Back to School.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm more from the movie with Will Ferrell called Old School,
Right.
where the character was blue.
Thornton Mellon he went back to school at like 55 with his son, but go ahead.
Yeah. So it was a great thing to do. You know, I was 10 years older than most of my classmates.
10? Your classmates were 28?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 27. The average age is 27 at Harvard. Yeah.
Okay.
They expect people to work 4 to 5 years before they enroll.
I don't think that's still the case, but I think that used to be the case. I don't think that's still the case.
It wasn't the case at most business schools, but the thing at Harvard is because it's the case method, they want real world experience to make the dialogue more robust. Okay. So I had more years of dialogue than the other students. And I'll be going back for my 35th reunion in June. So
incredible. Good for you.
It was really special and just great. So that's Boston, right? So getting out of Harvard, I had a few opportunities, but you know, my risk taking was done for a little while, and so I joined Citibank. I took an offer from Citi to go to Chicago as a VP in their marketing national marketing group. Did that for about 3 years. Recruited to Mastercard. Now I could get a global marketing experience, so I went to Mastercard for about another 3 years. Then this was in Chicago. They wanted me to relocate to New York. At that point, my family was really entrenched in Chicago. So we said, this is time to start something entrepreneurial. And that's when I decided to leave corporate America, now at 41, or early 40s, and start my own thing. So the Harvard experience had been so, you know, pivotal and inspiring, that I decided that I would start an education program that didn't require guys like me or women like me to give up everything to get this education. So I started a mini MBA program using Harvard cases, Harvard graduates, and I had everything going except customers. It did not click. And so that's when I really pivoted and said, all right, I'm going to twist this business and I'm going to help people decide if they should do what I did, which was change careers, go back to school, move, you know, start a business. So I started an education and career advisory company called the MBA Exchange. And this was in the late 90s. And that was the intersection of my experience, my passions, everything clicked for this business. And within months, I knew I'd made the right decision. So I grew that from you know, a very heavy laptop back in those days and an AOL email address into a business where I had 100 consultants and folks all over the world working for me. And we grew it. We served 5,000 people over the next 19 years, made the Inc. 5000, and had a wonderful, wonderful business. 2016 rolls around. I was approached by one of my key people that said, I'd like to buy your business. I want to shock you. I'll buy the business. I said, I'll shock you. Let's talk about it. So we cut a deal, and that was it. So I retired for a weekend and decided that, you know, I would return to marketing consulting, which I had done on the side 20 years earlier, and, you know, reconnected with my network and started that again. And then decided I want one more venture to start, and that is the summer entrepreneurship program that I've started in 2018 that I'm happy to tell you about, which is my pride and joy and passion at this stage of the game.
So I want to go back to Harvard just for a second.
Sure.
And first of all, for those of you following on audio only, you should know that today's show is brought to you by Ralph Lauren. Dan and I are both wearing blue polo shirts. There was no memo exchanged. It just happened to be that way. You can tell everybody that Dan and I have met once. We met in a weekend in Tampa, and we got along very poorly.
We need someone with straight lines to keep us going here.
Exactly. I help and talk to a lot of families and students about colleges and choices. And you have full license to tell me that I'm full of it. But part of what I tell them, regardless of who they are, is that unless you go to one of like 10 or 12 or 15, I don't care what the number is, the school doesn't matter. And the school that you got your MBA from, we all agree is one of the schools that actually does matter. But the reason it matters isn't so much the prestige of the school as much as it is the value of the alumni network. Am I full of it, or am I wrong? Am I right?
No, you're pretty much right on the money. I would say this. What I would tell my clients at the MBA Exchange is the benefits of getting this, top 10 degree are knowledge, which you can get many places, perspective, which you can get at fewer places. That's where the case method comes in. It really is a great way to learn. The third is the network, which, I know you're putting a premium on, but the brand is also beneficial. If nothing else, it's a certification in a sense for some employers. But the network is absolutely the enduring.
I'm not even talking about an MBA. I'm actually just talking about a college degree.
Yep.
And my argument is, look, first of all, if your kid or you can get yourself into one of those schools, you go, full stop. Like, if you have the means to go,
yes,
to one of those schools, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever, it's a no-brainer. You go. And to me, the predominant reason really is the alumni network. And I'll tell you why. It is the prestige that you talk about and the brand is going to help you get job number one.
Right.
No question. But I worked at AOL, where you had your first email account. I worked at Starbucks. I worked at Amazon. I've worked at great companies. With the exception of job number one, which was a sports team a long time ago, nobody in an interview ever asked me where I went to school. But
I would agree. Yep.
But if I had one of those schools in my back pocket, trying to find a gig, even now, being able to reach into that and I do have good alumni toolboxes to reach into, but they're not the same as those schools. They're just not. And that's not a knock on the schools that I went to. It's just an elevated group at those schools.
And there's two do-over opportunities there that a lot of parents don't think about. One is transferring after you do well at the place you got in, and then upgrading. And then the other is the grad school you pick.
Yeah, my only point is, look, the reason I bring it up is, first and foremost, you have kids. Not for everybody, but it's really important for a vast majority that you go. And the where almost doesn't matter unless you can go to one of those schools. But go, you're going to learn as much outside the classroom as you are in. But go learn how to live away from home. Go learn how to deal with difficult people. Go learn how to deal with a professor. Go learn what happens when you don't get your classes. Go, if you can do it, take a semester abroad. Go take classes that interest you. Go figure things out.
Agree.
The where, if you can't get into one of those 10 or 12 schools, it's not that big of a deal. And with all due respect, I'm not overly concerned about the transferring part of it either, or the grad school, because for a lot of people, that's just not in the cards either.
That's
but
true.
I do come back to the point that if you are fortunate enough that you can go to one of those schools, it's a no-brainer that you go. But for me, the predominant reason that you do go is and it's not that I believe the education is superior, bar none, but it really is going to be the value of that network.
Yes.
That is going to be available to you for the rest of your life.
Totally agree. And include in that alumni network, the students you're with, your peer group. At the camp that I'll be telling you a little bit more about, on the first day, I tell the students, these are high school students, I ask them who has a LinkedIn account. And out of 100 kids in the room, half a dozen raise their hand. And I tell them, by tomorrow, all of you will have a LinkedIn account, and you'll have 99 connections, and that's each other, because you're now a peer group that's going somewhere. So I'm with you on that.
So, okay, so we've had that discussion. I feel better. It just bothers me that parents, especially where you and I live, put a lot of pressure on these kids to attain the unattainable.
It's country club bragging rights.
It's something. So tell us about your camps.
Okay, so I was saying in 2018, I had one more act in this play, and the mentoring and coaching activity and satisfaction and joy that I got from the MBA Exchange, my previous business, was still within me. I thought, as a dad and now as a grandfather, I believe that going further upstream into the younger students to turn them on to business and entrepreneurship would be a good thing to do. And so my entrepreneurial style is that of an aggregator. I like to find best-in-class partners. I don't need to build it in the workshop. And so I thought, okay, what do I need? What are the components of this? A curriculum, teachers, a place, administration of students, and a sponsor that gives it a good name. So, marketer that I am, I went out and kicked a lot of tires and kissed a bunch of frogs, and came up with those best-in-class partners. Now I'm in the second year this summer of truly the all-star team, and that includes a curriculum partner named the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, NFTE, which is a wonderful organization that comes up with curricula for entrepreneurship and has a pool of certified entrepreneurship teachers from high schools. One of the differentiators in my camp is that we use high school teachers, not assistant instructors from colleges.
Mm-hmm.
We use teachers that can relate to the students and vice versa. And so they're the curriculum and teacher partner. The camp partner is outstanding. It's an organization called the National Student Leadership Conference, NSLC, and they are veterans of decades and decades of putting on pre-college programs for high school and even middle school students. So they're the camp partner. The media partner, title sponsor, is Inc. Magazine. I connected with them. They like the idea. They like the other partners. And so we all sort of joined hands and said, let's do this. And so last summer was the first summer of this collection of partners. And we had about over 900 students on 4 campuses. We were at Yale, Columbia, Duke, Michigan. 5 campuses, and Berkeley.
All horrible institutions.
All terrible.
None of which make my list of 10 or 12 schools.
Right. I've got the T-shirts from all of them, so it was quite a kick to go. And so we'll be back at those schools this summer with what we hope to be more than 1,000 students.
So just hold on for 1 second. If a student goes to this camp, how long is the camp?
It's a 9-day program, very intensive, 9 straight days of 9 in the morning till probably midnight.
And do they get any high school accreditation or college accreditation? Do they get anything for it other than feeling really good about themselves?
Well, they get a bunch of things. They
besides a T-shirt?
Beside a T-shirt. They may be able to work it out with their school where they do get credit. But really what they're getting is what I feel to be the biggest benefit is exposure to role models and coaches and mentors who I recruit to come to the program. So last year I had 60 CEOs, several from Shark Tank, several from the Inc. 5000, of which I'm a member, several from Harvard alums, which I could tap into, and an organization called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, which is a pretty good bunch of successful folks. So recruiting from those organizations and those nameplates, I bring in usually 2 in-person speakers to share their story. And we really get into it. This is, very personal. This is what they did as kids, what they did as teens, how they started a business, their failures, their successes, what they learned, what they want to impart on these students. And the kids are wide-eyed and leaning forward in their chairs and have great, tough questions for these entrepreneurs. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. The 9 days culminate in a pitch competition where these CEOs and founders are the panel, giving them feedback, asking them questions, and voting on the best business idea.
And 9 days. So are they staying in dorms on campus?
They're in dorms. They're eating in cafeterias. They're exhausted and they're having a great time.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. So do they get high school or college credit for this?
They may or may not. It depends really on their school rather than the camp. If their school will recognize it, then yes. And there's usually a guidance counselor or a teacher who has recommended them. So there is a connection with their school.
And how strict or how difficult is the admissions process to get into camp?
Good question. So it takes a 3.0 minimum GPA,
okay,
and this endorsement or recommendation from a guidance counselor or a teacher.
Sorry, go ahead.
I say it also takes parents that believe in it enough that they will send their kid.
So ballpark, what's tuition for a 9-day camp?
Tuition is about $4,000.
Okay.
All in. Food, dorm, you name it. T-shirt, and great stories to tell for the rest of their lives.
Right. And resume space and LinkedIn.
You got exactly. There's certification that they come out with saying they completed the program and the requirements thereof. And many of them will link up with folks like me and the entrepreneurs that are there and maintain contact with them. I hear from quite a few of them during the year. And if they need a recommendation or they need, feedback on a decision they're making, they've got an adult in the room they can do that with.
And what year of high school are they typically, or all years?
Most of them, I would say, are sophomores.
Okay.
Quite a few juniors, not too many seniors, and some freshmen.
Okay. So
and literally from all over the world: Monaco, India, China, France, Latin America. It's incredible. It's a UN, and seeing these kids bond and network with peers who they would never have come in contact with is an incredible thing to see.
So am I right? If you have a 3.0 and you have the letter of recommendation and you have the money, you're in?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's attainable.
It's not meant to be.
It's not getting into college. It's not getting into college.
No, it's not getting into college.
Okay.
No. It's for real people.
And the kids, is there a competitiveness to the camp they want to go to? Like you rattled off the schools that you're on. Is there a perceived benefit to going to one versus the other campus, or it's just geographically where they're located?
Same program, same content, similar, speakers and teachers. A difference might be there are some field trips where kids go to visit businesses or other points of interest, in the area. So also, if it's a region that the parent and the student think they might want to go to college there, it's a chance to kind of dip your toe in the water and experience what it's like at Duke or what it's like at Berkeley.
Right. All right. So you've been doing this for how many years?
So I started it in 2018 with a remote program. Then I did it in person for 2 years, and COVID hit and we missed a year, and then 2 more years. This will be the 5th year of an active live program.
And how many kids have you pushed through it?
Wow, great question. So
ballpark.
Yeah,
you said 900 last year.
Yeah. So, probably close to 3,000.
That's awesome.
And
now you all know why I wanted Dan to be here today. I mean, this is just so how do parents and or kids find out more details and apply? Great.
So the best place to go would be the website of the National Student Leadership Conference, NSLCleaders.org. nslcleaders.org. And the landing page for this program is that same URL, nslcleaders.org/Inc. INC business. No periods there. Inc. business.
Mr. Producer, can you please put a link in the podcast description and also flash it up on the screen right here? Can you say it one more time for us, Dan?
Sure. nslcleaders.org/Inc. INC business.
Perfect. And of course, are there scholarships or any opportunities like that available?
That would be something to request at registration. I think they do make some accommodations, but I don't want to speak for the camp. But that should be raised by the parent when they contact NSLC.
Most importantly, are there souvenirs and gift shops for T-shirts for those of us that want to buy?
I can attest, absolutely, and it's usually the first place visited. I will sometimes get there on the second day of the program. The kids are already bedecked in all
That's
things
awesome.
Berkeley, and that becomes the uniform of the day.
Listen, we live in very interesting and challenging times. There's, I'm not sure if you saw the news today, but without getting the least bit political, my home country, Canada, is up in arms about Wayne Gretzky. People are furious with Gretzky that last night during the hockey game, he came out on the American bench. He wasn't wearing anything Canadian. He's now, he's friends with Donald Trump, and people basically want to extricate Wayne Gretzky from Canadian folklore and history. And somebody said to me, the level of hatred right now in Canada, of all places, is that right up to here. And we live in these times where everyone is so angry and so upset that it's really refreshing to talk to somebody like you who is giving back. And that's why I thought it was really interesting to have you on to share what you're doing. Listen, you're not doing it for just the good. You're making a living on it, which you're more than entitled to. But helping people out in a way that is unique and different. And I, for one, my kids both went to a summer camp, a more traditional sleepover camp. I think getting kids away from the traditional in summers is important. I think what you're doing as an entrepreneur myself, I think it's critical. I think it's a great skill. Putting kids in an environment where they can learn, not just the skills that you're talking about, but again, to get out of the house, to learn from different cultures, to learn from different people, to get that flavor during high school is exceptionally important. And I'm really glad that you did this with us today.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate that. It is a true passion, and I'm so fortunate to be able to do it. It's flipping switches that otherwise might not get flipped or get flipped later, and I see it happen, and it's good stuff.
Well, it's an awesome lesson that, if you can find something to do for your life professionally that you love, you're way ahead of the game. So we should all be so lucky. And I hope tonight's concert is the dream come true with your heroes. I hope the song goes on for an hour, because that's my favorite song of theirs. And I hope your visit down in Nashville with your family's fantastic. And I really appreciate you joining me today. And I want to have you back on after the camp so you can tell us how great it was.
You got it. I'd be happy to do it. I'll bring
Awesome.
pictures.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
That was awesome. I really loved hearing his story. Dan is a super guy. I think you probably got the sense that I really liked meeting him. We hit it off instantly. We were, a couple of us were there at the reunion that had nothing to do with the show. So we found synchronicity together quickly. It's just awesome what he's doing. If I had young kids, I would absolutely try to find a way to get them to go to his camps. I think, going to those schools, learning from entrepreneurs, getting that experience is pivotal. And holy cow, can you imagine being 38 years old and going to Harvard Business School? That's just awesome. Moving to Hawaii, incredible stories. As always, I appreciate you coming here. Appreciate you listening. Wherever you listen, please subscribe, whether it's audio or video. Please tell everybody. Appreciate all referrals. If you want to appear as a guest, let me know. You can reach me on all the social channels or via email. And if you want to advertise, same story. We will see you next time in the press row. Thank you.